I had always been the adventurous type. Ever since I was a kid, I loved exploring the woods behind my house, searching for hidden treasures and secret paths. As I grew older, my thirst for adventure only intensified. So when I heard about the abandoned house on the outskirts of town, my curiosity turned into obsession. It was said to be haunted, filled with strange noises, shadows that moved on their own. Some claimed to have seen ghostly figures staring from the broken windows at night. Others spoke of whispers that called out to those brave enough to enter. I knew I had to see it for myself. One dark and gloomy Saturday afternoon, I decided it was time. I packed my backpack with essentials: a flashlight, a camera, a first aid kit, and a bottle of water. As I walked toward the house, a chill crept into the air. The path was overgrown with weeds, and the trees loomed over me like ancient giants, gnarled branches reaching out as if to warn me to turn back. But my heart raced with excitement as I pressed on. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was about to uncover something incredible or terrifying. When I finally reached the house, it stood before me like a giant ghost. Cracked walls and broken windows telling stories of years gone by. The roof sagged dangerously, and the porch creaked ominously under my weight. I felt an icy wind whip around me, sending shivers down my spine. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside. The door creaked open, revealing a dark hallway filled with dust. My flashlight beam cut through the shadows, illuminating faded wallpaper and a carpet that had long since turned to dust. I felt like I'd stepped into a forgotten world, one frozen in time. As I explored the ground floor, I found old furniture covered in white sheets, like the house was hiding its past. A grand piano sat in the corner, its keys yellowed and broken, while paintings hung crookedly on the walls, their subjects staring at me with hollow eyes. I took pictures, wanting to capture the eerie beauty of it all. The air was thick with dust, and I coughed as I made my way through the living room. It smelled musty, like old books and rotting wood. I felt a strange pull toward the staircase, which looked like it hadn't been used in years. My heart raced with anticipation, but a voice in the back of my mind whispered caution. I hesitated, but my curiosity won out. I had to see what was upstairs. The stairs creaked loudly as I climbed, each step sending a shiver of fear and excitement through me. When I reached the second floor, a long hallway stretched out before me. I could see several doors, each one looking as mysterious as the last. I took a deep breath and decided to explore. I opened the first door and stepped into a dusty bedroom. The bed was unmade, and old clothes lay scattered on the floor. A feeling of sadness washed over me, as if the room was frozen in a moment of despair. Suddenly I heard a soft whisper behind me. My heart raced. "Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence answered me. I shook my head, convincing myself it was just my imagination. I snapped another picture, but a sense of unease settled over me. I explored more rooms, but the whisper haunted me. Each time I turned to listen, I found nothing but silence. I was about to leave when I heard the whisper again. Clearer this time. "Help me." It sent chills down my spine. I followed the sound, feeling pulled toward it like a moth to a flame. The whisper led me to a door at the end of the hallway. It was slightly ajar, creaking ominously as I pushed it open. Inside, the room was small and dark, with only a thin beam of light cutting through the dust. In the corner stood an old, dusty mirror, its surface cracked and dirty. "Help me," the voice pleaded again, echoing in my mind. I stepped closer to the mirror, and to my shock, I saw a figure behind me, a pale woman with hollow eyes staring directly at me. I spun around, but the room was empty. My heart raced as I realized the woman was still in the mirror, her expression a mix of fear and desperation. I stumbled backward, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. "What do you want?" I shouted at the mirror. The woman's lips moved, but I couldn't hear her words. I leaned in closer, and the whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a storm. "Find the key," she mouthed, her eyes pleading. Confused, I turned back to the room, searching for anything that could help. I opened drawers, rifling through old clothes and forgotten trinkets. Then, I found a rusted key hidden in a small box. With the key in hand, I felt a surge of determination. I raced back to the hallway, my mind racing with questions. What door did the key unlock? I checked each door until I found one that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. The key fit perfectly, and I turned it slowly, the lock clicking open with a heavy sound. Inside, the room was dark, filled with cobwebs and dust. In the center stood an old chest, locked tight. I inserted the key, and the chest creaked open, revealing yellowed papers and a small locket. As I picked up the locket, the air grew cold. Suddenly, the mirror behind me shimmered, reflecting not just my image but the woman again. She looked more desperate than ever. "You must hurry. The darkness is coming." My heart raced as I turned back to the chest. Inside, I found a diary. The pages filled with scrawled handwriting that belonged to the woman. Her name was Eliza, and she had lived here many years ago. The diary told a story of love and loss, of a husband who had vanished without a trace. I felt a deep connection to her pain. The whispers grew louder, urging me to read on. "You have to find him," they cried. "He is trapped here too." I flipped through the diary, my hands shaking. Each page revealed more of Eliza's sorrow. She had searched for her husband endlessly, lost in her grief, until it consumed her. I realized the house was a prison for both of them. Eliza and her husband were bound to this place by the darkness that had taken them. I knew I had to help her find peace, but how? As I pieced together her story, the shadows in the house seemed to grow darker and thicker, pressing in on me. I could feel their anger, their desperation. I looked back at the mirror, Eliza's reflection pleading with me. "You must break the curse," she urged. "Together we can escape this place." "How?" I asked, panic rising within me. The house seemed to tremble around us as the shadows stirred, trying to drown out her voice. "There's a hidden room where the darkness began," Eliza said. "It's where my husband disappeared." I gripped the diary tightly and nodded. "Show me," I shouted, feeling the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Eliza pointed toward a door at the end of the hallway, one that I hadn't noticed before. I rushed toward it, my heart pounding wildly. As I opened the door, I was met with a dark stairwell that spiraled downward into the unknown. "Stay close," I shouted to Eliza's spirit as I descended into the abyss. The air grew colder, and the darkness wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. I felt like I was being watched, the whispers swirling around me in a chaotic frenzy. "You shouldn't have come here," they hissed. "You'll never escape." But I pressed on, determined to find the truth. At the bottom of the stairs, I entered a small, dimly lit room filled with shadows. In the center stood a pedestal with an ancient book resting on it. The book seemed to pulse with dark energy, and I felt an overwhelming urge to touch it. As I reached for the book, a deafening roar echoed through the room. Shadows surged toward me, trying to drag me back into the darkness. "No," I shouted, summoning every ounce of strength I had. Eliza's voice rang in my ears, filled with urgency. "You have to read it. It holds the key to breaking the curse." I opened the book, and the pages were filled with cryptic symbols and words that seemed to glow in the darkness. "With love, we can break the curse." I read aloud, my voice trembling. The shadows writhed and twisted as I spoke, trying to silence me. "Together, forever," I continued, feeling Eliza's spirit gather around me, lending me her strength. The shadows screamed in rage, but I pressed on. "We break the chains of sorrow and pain." With each word, the room shook violently. I felt a surge of energy coursing through me as the shadows began to dissipate. "It's working," I shouted, feeling hope bloom within my chest. The final line of the incantation poured from my lips, and the shadows screamed one last time before bursting into a blinding light. I was thrown backward, landing hard on the cold floor. As I opened my eyes, the room was transformed. The darkness had vanished, replaced by warm, golden light. Eliza stood before me, her expression peaceful. "Thank you," she whispered, tears of joy in her eyes. "You freed us." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, and the house around me began to crumble. "You have to go," Eliza urged. "Leave this place and live." I scrambled to my feet, racing back up the stairs. The house shook violently as I burst through the front door, stumbling outside just as the structure collapsed behind me. I fell to my knees, panting, my heart racing. As I looked back, the ruins of the house faded into nothingness, leaving only a peaceful clearing behind. I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Eliza and her husband were free, and I had helped them. But as I stood there, catching my breath, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I turned slowly, my heart pounding once more. A shadow flickered at the edge of the trees. Was it over? I wondered. I could still hear whispers in the breeze, echoes of a story that would never truly end. And then, silence. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the ground. I knew I had uncovered the mystery of the house, but I couldn't help but feel a lingering connection to the past. What had I truly released, I thought, staring into the fading light. As I walked away from the clearing, I glanced back one last time. The memories of that day would stay with me forever, and the whispers of the forgotten house would haunt my dreams. Did I truly escape, or was I just another soul tied to its dark history? Only time would tell.